Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of my Type 10 tank building series. In this video we'll be changing this into a nicely painted tank like this. These are the two base paints we'll be using, both green and brown, the official Japanese camo pattern colors. To start off with, we'll paint the entire tank a base green color. Normally I would prime my vehicles, but with Tamiya paint, usually the paint itself is strong enough as a primer. We'll just coat the entire tank in a nice even green coat of paint. Now normally I would just airbrush on any kind of camo pattern, but this specific Japanese camo pattern has a sharp edge, and if you airbrush on a camo pattern it'll have a fuzzy edge. So I'll be using this very interesting product. It's called Intelligent Putty. It's basically exactly the same stuff as official masking putty, but for like 1/3 of the price. So yeah, you just take separate chunks of it, roll them out into long snakes, and then snake it along the model as you want. Just pressing down on it enough so that it goes into every nook and cranny, and then fill up the rest of the stuff with a sheet of the material. It really is a great product. It doesn't stick, it doesn't smell, it doesn't leave a residue. It holds on just enough to actually stay in place, and you can shape your patterns as you want and just cover off anything you don't want to paint. Now as I went along on the turret, I made sure to line up the turret and the hull camouflage patterns there, so that when the tank is looking forward, the lines match up perfectly. Now with the camo in place, I've put some toilet paper underneath the wheels to cover them, and then we can spray on the brown paint on the exposed areas. And now for maybe one of the most satisfying things ever, peeling off the putty, which just leaves the perfect finish we want. Yeah, I can do this all day. And of course, we'll do the same for the turret. When peeling off, I accidentally pulled out the barrel. It wasn't glued in, just attached firmly. It's no big deal. The nice thing about the putty is you can just cut it with scissors to ensure you don't accidentally pull off any fragile parts. Okay, while we still have the putty at hand, let's mask off these rubber flaps at the bottom. Normally I would use masking tape for this, but I thought I'd give the putty a try for straight lines, and honestly I'm pleasantly surprised how easy and fast this went. So yeah, we just mask off the area and then paint the mud flaps black. And after that satisfying peel, we'll do the same on the other side. And there we have it, all the base colors are painted. Now we're just going to give it a quick glossy varnish. I use a spray bottle for this, and I tend to do it outside so I didn't capture it on camera. But here you see the result, a nice and glossy tank ready for the next few steps. After having a quick look at the instructions guide on which decals to use, I start applying them with micro set and micro sol. So first we apply the micro set, we apply the decal, and then we touch it up afterwards with micro sol. Now, microset and microsol sometimes tend to leave a bit of residue on the material. But what I like to do is paint an even coat on the whole surface. How you can see here where I paint this square entirely instead of just the decal. So you don't get this weird sheen circle around the decal and not on the entire surface there. And then there's still a few markings on the front and back of the tank, as well as a little star in the bumper. And with those in place, we'll paint some of the extremities, like the headlights. And the tail lights as well. With all the decals in place and the lights painted, now we spray the model with matte varnish, so we make it ready for a black wash. Now there's two ways to approach this in my opinion. First, you can apply the black wash only to the nooks and crannies and the raised areas of the model, or you can do what I do with this one and just slather it on over the entire model and then afterwards clean it with a Q-tip. The reason why I chose the second option here is because this model has a lot of grip surface texture shapes on it. I'd like to highlight them all later on, so making them darker now helps a lot. With the entire model covered with what looks like oil, we just wait for it to dry, and then we grab a bunch of Q-tips and start cleaning it off with some enamel thinner. Just add a bit to your Q-tip, not too much, and just gently rub over your surfaces until the clean parts keep showing up. can already see the definition showing up a lot more of all the separate parts. Now to increase that a bit more, we'll take some of the original green paint and dry brush it onto the edges and corners of the model. This is a great contrast with the dark layer that we just applied, so it highlights the edges even more and defines the entire look of the model, which is really helpful. I take care to put some extra bit of highlighting on the non-grip surfaces, all those squares you see, just to highlight them a bit more and bring them back through the camel paint. Now that that's done, I actually noticed I forgot to paint the barrel cover, so let's get some desert khaki and paint that in. Now I gave it a brown wash, but I accidentally forgot to hit the record button. But yeah, I gave it a dark brown wash, and then I used the same khaki paint to dry brush the highlights back into the canvas cover. Next up, to add just a little bit more definition to all these small shapes on these hatches, I take the original paint again, the green, and just highlight all the levers and hatches and grab-on handles and stuff. Now that that's done, we can see that the details are really starting to pop again on this model. It helps blend in the camouflage as well, so it's starting to look really nice. Now to continue on with painting some black elements, so first of all the MG, the 50 cal, paint it entirely black, and then later in the weathering stages, which will be in the next video, we'll actually make it metallic looking. We'll also paint some other black bits like the smoke canisters caps. The MG rail. And the rubber padding on the small front hatch here. Now with all these basic paint steps done, we'll apply another layer of matte varnish to get rid of that glossy sheen, and then we can call this complete for now. I'm super happy with how this tank is starting to look. It's gonna need a lot more weathering and some more detail painting along the way, but for now, this is a great base to start on, and we will define how much weathering it'll need when we start making the dioramic base. As of yet, I don't really have a cool idea yet for the dioramic base, so if you have any nice ideas, leave them down in the comments and I'll definitely consider them. In the next video, we'll focus some more on some weathering, we'll paint the tracks as well as the road wheels, and maybe we'll start thinking about some stowage and other ideas. For now, I'd like to thank you for watching. I wish you all a happy new year, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.